Hi, and welcome to this video. This is kinda a longer introduction into the deck I'm showing you today. This time we will start with an overview what a control deck is. So basically a control deck is a deck that wants to play long games and control your opponent's actions, basically having an answer to whatever your opponent can do. And because you want to play the long game, you rely heavily on card quality and card advantage, simply drawing more cards than your opponent. And because you play a long game, you only need few win conditions. To some degree, you usually want more than one kind of win condition. For example, if you win with creature damage, you also want an alternative win condition in case your opponent has 1,000 life points or more. So usually you want two types of win conditions. Sometimes only one kind is fine too. And you rely on inevitability. This means that once you're stable enough on the board, you're very certain to win the game. So your opponent drawing the best cards won't matter much because you will have more cards in hand and always a great answer for whatever card they could draw. Not everyone likes those decks, but let's look at the main idea of this deck. Ponder is a great card. You see it in many blue decks. And my thought was maybe we could deconstruct Ponder into its three core mechanics. That in theory, with a permanent based Ponder, you get to play a virtually higher number of Ponders. The way we do this is by replacing Ponder with Mirror's Guile. It's an enchantment for 1 mana. At the beginning of your turn, you look at the top 3 cards and you can rearrange them. You don't draw any cards, but over a long game, you will gain a lot of card quality. You have enough lands, so you put lands at the bottom. You want a removal spell, you will find it. It's especially good with miracle cards, but there are a variety of situations where you want this card. Now, if the top 3 cards are not what you like, you can shuffle your library. You can do this by playing fetch lands, cycling with Lorien Revealed, or maybe dredging with Life from the Loam. The most important part about Ponder is drawing the cards. So I thought maybe Up the Beanstalk is already what we want. If you combine it with enough cards that have a high converted mana cost, like Terminus, Entreat the Angels, Misdirection, Lorien Revealed, or Force of Will, you will draw a lot of cards. When it enters, you draw a card, and in addition, you have Tamio creating clue tokens. Those 3 components mimic what a normal Ponder would do, but in theory, because those cards, Up the Beanstalk, Tamio, and Mirror's Guile, are permanents, those stay in play, and they repeatedly have the effect of a Ponder. That's the theory behind it. We combine this with an interesting card, Mission Briefing. For 2 mana, you surveil 2, then you may choose an instant or a sorcery card in your graveyard and can cast it. The important difference is it doesn't gain flashback like it does with Snapcaster Mage. So you can cast cards from your graveyard for their alternative mana cost, meaning you can cast Force of Will by exiling a card from your hand. Now, why is this important? Because there is a lot of combo and fast decks in the format, and usually 1 Force of Will is nice to have, but 2 are simply better. So in theory, you can cast Force of Will, exiling a Brainstorm, and once Force of Will is in the graveyard, you can then cast Mission Briefing, surveil 2 cards, exile Force of Will from your graveyard, casting it again, and also exiling another blue card. So it kind of gives you some backups against quite fast combo decks like maybe Doomsday, maybe something else. It also grants you the ability to cast cards from your graveyard normal, like with Snapcaster Mage, for example, Swords to Plowshares, or maybe just a Brainstorm. The Surveil is also nice because you can remove the top 2 cards. You might have seen them with Brainstorm or might already know what's on top because of Mirror's Guile. So that's also some nice synergy. Another new card you might not know is Unexpectedly Absent. For basically 2 white mana at instant speed, you put a card on top of an opponent's library. This is great because you use one card and your opponent also goes down one card, opposed to Leyline Binding, where only temporarily you equalize, spending a card and removing a card. But as soon as your opponent removes Leyline Binding or returns it to hand, their card comes back, eventually, maybe granting them some enter the battlefield triggers and gaining them an advantage. Now, Unexpectedly Absent has the advantage of not needing 5 basic land types as Leyline Binding does, meaning your mana base won't be as screwed. Also, it's fairly easy to target Planeswalkers compared to March of Otherworldly Light, for example. At the same time, its instant speed is fairly better than Prismatic Ending, that also fails at dealing with 4, 5 or more converted mana cost permanents. So overall, Unexpectedly Absent is a great card. It's mana efficient, it's fast, it's cheap. It also has the great bonus effect of returning Thassa's Oracle on top of your opponent's library. Another sweet thing to do with it is casting it for 5 or more mana, granting Beanstalk triggers, or casting it in response to your opponent fetching. Now, this is the list that inspired me to create my own deck. This is from Force of Phil. He has a YouTube channel where he puts Magic Online content. He also plays regularly on 90s MTG. So this is the current version of the deck. It has quite a few interesting cards. Maybe I'll start with Entreat the Angels. This is our primary win condition. We play it twice, but we have the option to buy it back either with Mission Briefing, although that will be very expensive, or putting it back on top with Mystic Sanctuary. It's also noteworthy that if you pay 1 and 2 white mana, its converted mana cost is still equal to 5. So it means it will trigger up the Beanstalk, even though you only pay 3 mana for it. Our alternative win condition is Chase the Mind Sculptor. Its -12 ability will win us games, especially those in which we cannot win by dealing conventional creature damage. We also have Tamio as not a real win condition, but as a way of kind of winning the game, because our opponent will have to fight very aggressive to not lose to Tamio, because once we have half of our library in hand, we basically won the game already. Yeah, so maybe the cards I'm not so happy with in this deck list is 1 Misdirection and 1 or 2 Mission Briefings. I think those cards can easily be cut and replaced by different cards. At the same time, I'm not 100% sure about the mana base. Sometimes I feel like I need a land that's both white and green and untapped, and that's currently not inside this list. At the same time, I sometimes want a second Mystic Sanctuary, so those might be changes to the mana base. For the sideboard, I think you probably know most of the cards. The one card you might not know is Turn the Earth. It's kind of a pet card of mine because it's great in a variety of situations, especially it having flashback, meaning your opponent discarding the card doesn't solve the problem. On the contrary, it makes it castable. Gaining life might be nice, but the most important part is shuffling cards back into libraries, reducing the size of Barrogoyf, Nethergoyf, maybe messing with a Doomsday Pile, Reanimator, and so on. The sideboard still also needs a lot of improvements. Next up is one matchup against one opponent. Then there will be several faster replays, and in about a few days, a league I played with this deck. Okay, so this is the first match I want to show you. This is a 5-card hand after 2 mulligans, playing Mirror's Guile, and kind of showing how much it can help us in the future turns. Here we have Terminus. We can keep it for later to clear up some Urza Saga tokens. We want to play basically a land every turn, so putting Terminus in second position here allows us to draw mission briefing, having up Force of Will and Brainstorm to cast the Terminus and to force a potential interaction. We do exactly that. Our opponent forces, we force their force. The tokens are gone. And now we have a second Mirror Skull, a card you actually don't want to, or usually you don't want to. But we also have Lorien revealed to clear the top cards. Notably, if you have two Mirror Skull in play, you can fetch in between the triggers, looking at the top three cards, you don't like them, then you fetch, and then you look at the new top three cards. But usually you only want one in play. We cleared Dreadnought, but our opponent still has the Null Drifter. Our plan is now to cast Entreat the Angels, creating two blockers. And if our opponent plays Sword, we can still kill it. So we sacrifice a land. We block with both of them, and our opponent swords one of the tokens. Now they're gone, the Null Drifter dies as well. Opponent plays Tamio. He equips and also plays a Doorkeeper Thrall. If you don't know that card, it basically has the text that creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. And that's really good with Null Drifter's Evoke trigger and with Dreadnought. They attack us. They flip Tamio. They play a second Tamio. And we now have a misdirection, what we don't really need. We have a Hedge Maze and Lorien revealed. We'll use that to play the Hedge Maze and clear the top of our library. Opponent plays here another new card. It can copy an artifact and it draws cards upon dealing damage. Opponent equips again. Ponder. Another was a Saga. And we find the misdirection again, as well as two lands. Our opponent plays Triumph. And we buy back Terminus, putting it on top of our library. We get to look at our top three cards. We will probably just choose the Terminus. Our opponent has 4 cards in hand. And our opponent consigns it. So This is one of the reasons why I chose this matchup, because our opponent has Consign to Memory and Stifle for Miracle triggers, making it kind of a difficult matchup. He plays Urza Saga, which is also not easy to deal with, and a card that introduces the Monarch, which we'll get to later on. So I thought it's maybe the most interesting match out of those test matchups. We sideboard and play Engineered Explosive. Our opponent makes some tokens. We will brainstorm. They might have a Pithing Needle, so using the Engineered Explosive here might be a great moment, because in future turns we might not be able to use it. Notably, we don't have white-white available yet. Upon equipping, we Swords to Plowshares. Our opponent plays then a Tamio, and now we create some Angel tokens. We will block the Tamio, and our opponent will play Brainstorm. Tamio goes up. Ponder and Topa Orb. Topa Orb again also is an enabler for Dreadnought and Null Drifter. We'll put on top again Entreat the Angels, creating some more Angel tokens, because those will raise our opponent's creatures, leaving up green for Whale of Summer in case our opponent has Force of Will in hand, which they don't. Opponent plays Dreadnought, equips, attacks. We won't block because we will survive it, and we want to attack and kill our opponent in our turn. So we go down to 5, our opponent brainstorms. And now we win, because our opponent will use Swords to Plowshares to gain a bunch of life and survive, but we can simply put Dreadnought on top and pay for the ward cost of the equipment, and we win the game. Okay, now for the last game, we start on Hedge Maze. We find a Brainstorm, that's great. We will Swords. Our opponent plays Doorkeeper Thrall and follows it up with a Dreadnought. We will put in place Terminus most likely. Yes, and then we play Terminus to deal with both of those creatures. Up the Beanstalk. Drawing a card. Our opponent plays Court of Grace. Now this one introduces the Monarch, something we can't interact with. And they will create a 1/1 or 4/4 creature every turn, which is problematic. So that's why I chose this matchup. And we will see if Up the Beanstalk and Chase can deal with this, or Opponent plays Tamio. Another thing that can be difficult to deal with. They immediately flip it. But I'm saving Force of Will here because I think with Beanstalk in play, that kinda equalizes our card draw, and with Chase in play, I think we have the stronger Planeswalker. Especially since whatever they're playing, it might be a Dreadnought, for example, bouncing it with Chase is just -1, so that's fairly easy to do. Our opponent forces, we force back, we draw a card. Chase is in play. We see our opponent would draw a Null Drifter. We don't want that to happen because they will gain 2 life and potentially also bring in the Null Drifter and let it stay in play. Then they play the Court. We can either Swords to Plowshares or bounce with Chase, a token they create. And as long as they're the Monarch, those tokens they create every turn will be 4/4 flying creatures. We will put back on top Lorien Revealed for even more card draw. And then draw cards with Chase. Playing another Beanstalk. They Force of Will, we will misdirect their Force of Will to misdirection, thus it not longer countering up the Beanstalk, and we will draw a bunch of cards. So now it's the Monarch ability versus Beanstalks, who can draw more cards, and the Planeswalker battle of Chase versus Tamio. They create a 4/4 Flying Angel token, and they want to make it hasty. We will Swords in response. We draw land. We will use Chase to draw another card. Putting back 2 lands, playing another Beanstalk. Now every 5 mana card we play will draw us 3 cards. Putting Terminus on top allows us to clear the board and draw 3 cards. Opponent ponders, plays Tamio, equips Tamio, and they will attack. They brainstorm. Now they have a Tamio on 5 loyalty and a new flip Tamio that could go up to 4. They keep the one that could go up to 4. I don't know why. We reveal Terminus and our opponent concedes. Next up are some fast forwarded matches to give you an idea how the deck plays. Fully commented matches will be in a different video about my second Magic Online League, uploaded probably in a few days. Have fun!